Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 464. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
I can't believe this is 464.
I can.
I can't.
It feels like 460 something episodes. No?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
it's a lot.
It's a lot. We are eternally here, apparently. So, welcome everyone. It's a DC Comics podcast. We get together and we talk about the books we read this week. Coming up on today's show, we have Absolute Green Lantern issue 4, Batgirl issue 9, Birds of Prey 23, JSA issue 9, Resurrection Man Quantum Karma issue 4, and Justice League vs. Godzilla vs. Kong 2 issue 2. Also, I've got a Patreon book. I'll be talking about Planetary issue 10. So that is what's coming up on the show today. It's a slightly later week, just slightly. Although I feel like there was one extra book in the list last week, and something got delayed, and I don't know what it was.
I don't remember either, but when I went to get my comics this week, I felt like I was one short, and I couldn't figure it out. So that wasn't just me.
Yeah, I didn't even know what it was, but I was convinced there was 7 books coming into the week, and then I was surprised there was only 6. So I think something might get pushed. I'm not sure what, but regardless, that's what the plan is today. So we'll get into all that. But before we do, Matt, how was your week?
Pretty decent. I saw the new Jurassic Park. Thoroughly enjoyed myself. Ate way too much popcorn, and then here yesterday for our stupid holiday, which I've just turned into Jaws Day, which is fine, But yeah, when I watched Jaws the 50th anniversary, I don't know if it got a remaster or whatever, but it looked great. It also could be my new TV. This is the first time watching Jaws on the new TV I got in May. But it looked really good. So, yeah.
I mean, it got a 4K remaster about, 5 or 6 years ago, so I suspect it's still the same master as that. I could be wrong, though.
Yeah. It could just be my TV. It's upgraded, but yeah. Looked fantastic. Wife wasn't enjoying me yelling Hooper the rest of the day. So, in the way that Quint does.
As you do. Now, I've not seen the new Jurassic Park yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be seeing that tomorrow at the time of recording for review on our sci-fi movie podcast, The Atomic Cinema Experiment. For those of you who don't know that exists, go check it out. It's on Mail Fuzz Movies on YouTube or via just the podcast feed. Anyway, opinions on that seem to be very mixed, bordering on very negative. You saying you enjoyed yourself weirdly does not fill me with confidence, given your terrible taste and the fact that you didn't think Dominion was horseshit. So I don't know what to expect.
I didn't think it was horseshit. However, when I ranked mine on Letterboxd, which check me out there, guys. It's the same name. Wait, are our handles still up, or did you take them down? You took them down. But Matt of Steel 57 over there. Check that out.
Very observant.
I think Dominion's last. I can't remember. I just looked at it.
That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. Just ranked amongst the Jurassic Parks. That does not mean anything.
Yes. But it means I don't like it as much as you're saying that I did. So just because it's not horseshit doesn't mean
No, it was horseshit. Jurassic World Dominion is one of the worst things in the last few years.
I haven't had the urge to rewatch it. So yes. This new one, I will say, is much more my taste. Take that of which you will. And I am already making plans to try to see it again before Superman comes out, because I would like to see certain scenes on the big screen again. It's just Gareth Edwards is very good with like big, majestic, awe-inspiring imagery. So there's a lot of stuff there for me to enjoy. Characters, story, all that other stuff. I'll let Pete make up his mind. I'm not going to tip my hand too much. But, some of the dinosaur stuff, Gareth Edwards is really good, which we shouldn't be surprised, considering this dude did Godzilla. So, But yes.
Yes, I don't know. I'm going with very mixed reservations, and I'm just going to see how it goes.
Yep.
But everything I've heard about how late he came on the process and didn't really get a chance to do a lot of his usual stuff makes me think that I'm probably going to be underwhelmed. But hey, I will find out. I'll be seeing that tomorrow, like I said. But honestly, it feels like the last little hurdle before Superman. It's like, oh, I need to go see this. Not that I need to for a show, but like, it's this weird thing where my mind kind of makes it feel that way, where I'm like, this is the last thing I see before Superman, and that's the thing I'm actually looking forward to. So it almost feels like I'm resenting it a little bit for not being Superman. Like, I'm going to be sitting there going, I wish I was seeing Superman today, but I'm not, because that's not out till next weekend.
Yeah. I can't believe we're less than a week away. You just gotta stay out of traffic until then, and I'm good to go.
Yes. I'm hopeful. But yeah, we'll see. That's next weekend. Of course, that's out. There'll be a full review of that movie as part of the Collector's Cut, which is the podcast that I do with David. I'm promoting everything today, apparently. But we just did our Superman 4 review. Just came out this weekend. We've been going through the old ones. So admittedly, it's going to be kind of weird because the new one will be out already. But next weekend, the review that's coming out is Superman Returns, and that was 2+ hours of just tearing that thing apart. It's a pretty bad movie. So not that Super 4 is like high art, but Superman 4 is high art by any means, because it isn't, obviously. But anyway, yes, I don't know. I'm excited for Superman. I guess that's all I'm really trying to say. But I'm promoting stuff along the way.
Are you gonna have it seen by the time we record?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. And even if I have, we're not talking about it on the show. I'm not saying a word of what I think about it publicly until I record the movie review.
But I will say less about it if I know you haven't seen it.
Oh, sure.
You know, that's all. So if I know you've seen it, then I'll talk a little bit more open, but not, so I don't want to deny the people my thoughts on my favorite superhero.
Yeah, I will be refraining from talking about it on this show, for reasons. I know it's a bit weird because it's a DC character, but we've got dedicated movie shows. There's a place for that.
There's one of my favorite things, though, and I know you're holding something back, and I let people believe you think the opposite on it. It's one of my favorite things, is you won't correct me because you don't want to tip your hand, because you want to drive them to watch the other one.
Yeah, but sometimes you do it even when I've kept it from you. You're just making guesses.
It's one of my favorite things to do.
Oh well. Anyway, everyone, the DC Comics podcast. But we'll get into the business. Kindle rankings, formerly known as the ComiXology Top 10. Everyone's favorite part of the show, especially Matt's. So we'll look into that. Matt, you got a guess for what number 1 is as of right now?
Absolute Green Lantern.
That is incorrect.
Ultimate Wolverine.
That is incorrect.
Really? All right, let me look down. Let me see if there's is it Captain America 1? That is incorrect. Really? Oh, man. Three swings, 3 strikes, 3, that's an out. I think I have 2 more to play with. Let me get X-Men 19, and this will be my last guess.
That is incorrect.
Good Lord. Uh-oh. There's someone here. You talk, I'm going to mute my mic.
All right. This is a weird place for me to just kill time, though, since... I thought he was going to leave. Matt's still sitting there listening to me. That's all right. I thought he was going to go and get the door. And I was like, I can't reveal what the number 1 is when he's not here. But yes, no. Number 1 is X-Men Hellfire Vigil, issue 1.
The hell is that?
Excellent question. Number 2 is Captain America, issue 1. Number 3 is Absolute Green Lantern. 4 is X-Men 19. 5 is Ultimate Wolverine. 6 is JSA. 7 is Amazing Spider-Man. 8 is Avengers. 9 is Immortal Thor. And 10 is Batman 89 Echoes, issue 6. Very Marvel-dominated top 10 this week. They had a lot of big books out that did fairly well, seemingly.
The Hellfire Vigil on the Comic Geeks is down in the 1, 2, 3, 4th row. That's at 16 on theirs. So, and I know the Comic Geeks number 1s or whatever, but it didn't even register in my scroll of it showing up. So, wow.
Yeah, looking elsewhere for DC stuff. Number 11's the Godzilla Kong book. 14's Birds of Prey. 16's Batgirl. 17's the Secret Six book that's out this week. So that's kind of where the other stuff kind of happens to fall. Resurrection Man's down at 21, which, given how much of a weird book that is, That's not too bad, honestly. So, yeah, there you go. Very Marvel heavy week, but it hams. So that'll do for the Kindle rankings, and we can get into the books for the week. So we'll get straight into it. Now, we joked last week that we might have a sub 2 hour show, and it did not happen, right? Nope. Mainly due to Matt. It did not happen. I think it's possible this week. I think we're starting the book talk at just past the 10-minute mark on the recording. I think we've got a real shot of being sub 2 hours this week.
I really, depending on what goes on with Resurrection Man, because I'm going to tip my hand here. I did not understand a damn thing that I read there. So depending on how that goes, I do think we'll move quick. And your Planetary review. So I don't have hot takes on a lot of stuff this week. So
so Absolute Green Lantern issue 4, Al Ewing writing with Jahnoy, Lindsay on the art. So we're getting to some answers kind of in this issue. This has been kind of getting a bit more exciting with each passing issue as well, as we'll be getting a clearer picture of what's going on. It's been kind of teasing stuff. I mean, hell, even this first page, which is like, okay, we thought the Hal Jordan stuff was Black Hand related, and I think it still is. But then you have this orange bleeding in and saying that, inside the circle is a Black Star. So now we're doing Black Star stuff. And I'm like...
The Dark Stars. And we also get a Weaponers of Quard reference, which in mainline continuity, that's who gave Sinestro the first yellow ring. They're from the Antimatter universe. So, there's some big things there. There's a lot. Al Ewing is throwing a lot out in this issue, but it's very exciting because they're like little breadcrumbs for us to follow.
It's making a lot of this stuff feel a lot more kind of have a bit more mystique than it does in the main universe, which is kind of interesting. So, Joe and Hal are having their kind of confrontation. Hal kind of acts out at her when she's questioning him, and he kind of forms like a suit around him, which is pretty gnarly. He's got like red eyes in it, but is mostly this black kind of muscle mass. But we flash back, as we've been doing throughout this whole arc. We've been flashing back to what happened in the town, and we find out that most of the town's gone. Like, Joe and Hal were two of the last few people left, and he obviously had his plan at the end of last issue with the gold bullets to maybe take out Abin Sur. So they've got a plan where she's going to come out and distract him, and Hal might get a shot off. Surprising to them, though, and completely changing the way things happen here, is that when she calls out Abin Sur and he comes down to talk to her, she demands to know why he's killed everyone, why he's killed almost 3,000 people that live in this town. And he gets very confused and says, "Kill them all? I do not understand what you mean." And this is sort of the first breadcrumb of like, wait a minute, all this like this disappearing people thing might not be what we thought it was in the first place. And we kind of speculated that we didn't think John Stewart was already dead.
Yep.
I mean, I hoped it for Guy, obviously, but
of course you did.
That's
of course you did. Because when he says, when Abin Sur starts talking, he says, "Yeah, but the guy on the motorcycle, but that had to do with the force field. That was an oopsie. He's the only one that's actually dead." And you're just like, oh, shoot. All right, so where'd they all go?
There was a second one. There was the one the bullet ricocheted and killed that woman.
Yes.
So there was a second one that was, again, not really Abin Sur's fault directly. So during this, you're thinking, oh, is Hal still going to take the shot and cause all the problems? Is that because he doesn't hear what's happening? But Joe's going to understand that Abin Sur's not killed anyone yet. However, that's not actually how it goes down. What happens is that Joe accidentally kills Abin Sur, which is kind of wild. So basically, Abin Sur reveals that everyone who's disappeared exists on Oa, the Omega Alpha. They're in the second stage, and Judgment's still in progress, which obviously she doesn't quite understand. And hell, even we don't understand, because is Oa even a planet in this context? It doesn't sound like it.
It still seems very sinister. He says they're the Alpha Omega, and that's just like, or the Omega Alpha, which means that, to me, that makes it sound like it's an in-between, almost like a purgatory. You know what I mean? But yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But I don't know. That's felt like it was taking a turn where maybe whatever Abin Sur's doing is not inherently bad. It was the vibe I was getting. So I wasn't getting sinister from what he was saying here. This felt like it was turning a corner. But of course... Abin Sur ultimately is going to leave, right? He says fear Quard, right, for one thing, right, which obviously is, like you say, tying into the old Silver Age origin of Sinestro and how he, because back in the day, in the Silver Age, like there was like just characters from Quard who would be villains in Green Lantern from the Antimatter universe, and then like you say, they kind of fit that in with Sinestro's Yellow Lantern origin by them helping him sort of like make that a thing. So that's like an interesting name drop, if nothing else. But he says, you now have understanding, judgments in progress, and she's like, no, what do you mean be without fear? What the hell are you talking about? And as he's teleporting away with his Green Lantern light, she reaches her hand out to grab him into the light. However, she doesn't think about the fact that she's wearing a gold wedding ring. And seemingly, this causes a disastrous effect, which just, I don't know, completely obliterates him. I don't even know what to call it. He kind of he's clearly in pain, and he sort of lands and sort of says chaotic action anomaly, and he's sort of freaking out. But he's lost control of the ship. Although let's not gloss over the 2-page layout, where seemingly a lot of things around the universe are reacting to whatever the shockwave is that she's caused. Couple of standouts. There's an eye, which might be Sinestro. Is that, am I reading that right? Because there's a sort of red skin.
Yeah, he looks like a Korrigan. Whoever it is looks like a Korrigan. Yeah. So I thought the same thing.
We also have, is that Tumar Ray?
Yeah.
Or one of his kind, at the very least.
Yeah. Azudarian, but it looks like a different kind of energy. It looks like that the red orangish one that you were talking about that was bleeding in at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, or maybe.
So what does that mean?
Or maybe something else entirely. It's hard to say. But it feels like the shockwaves of what Joe's just done is rippling throughout all these things. Or at the very least, these are all the things that are kind of in Abinsur's head that he's worried about now that like he's not going to be able to continue whatever he was doing, his mission.
It looks like she soul punched him almost, right? It's almost like it's knocking through like these ripples through reality. Like you're saying, maybe it is the thoughts on his mind, but it definitely feels like these are ripple effects that have now come from, her breaking through that barrier, right? And actually being able to touch him.
Yeah, and she's surrounded by the green light when, after this happens, it's almost like she's taking it from him in some way, even if by accident, which is still a pretty big difference from the whole Abinsur handing the power over because he realizes he's dying. But the big tragedy that happens here, and it's not as bad as it could be because they've already established that the town's basically empty, but the big Green Lantern ship that was hovering above just falls down onto the town and like destroys and crushes like a huge chunk of it. So it's better than it could have been because it could have been populated. But still.
But it's still this big spaceship that crashed into their town in rural Nevada.
Yeah.
So, which I love as the whole Area 51 and being a local here, all the talk, the fact that now there is a spaceship that has crashed in Nevada, it gave me quite a chuckle.
Yeah, and we kind of go to like a woman on a plane, and I was thinking, was this Carol? Are we interested in Carol somehow? And it's not. This is the assistant. I suppose it could still turn out to be Carol because hey, it's the...
Yeah. We don't got a name, but she is wearing violet. Dark hair, she checked some of the boxes.
It was the dark hair that was making me think, but this is the assistant to another character, and this is going to be a big reveal because they do all the close-up panels of the hands, of the feet stepping off the helicopter. But the big reveal here is that like billionaire Hector Hammond comes stepping off the chopper to investigate this crash site. Crash site is what I was trying to say.
Crash site, yeah.
Yes. And it's like, okay, he's looking very dapper. He's clearly very successful here. He feels a bit different to what we typically think Hector Hammond of.
This dude is dressed in gaudy amounts of gold, and everything around him is gold, and that's going to be a problem for the green energy. That's all that like you said, like the panels are doing that reveal thing where we're getting a little piece, but it's also showing off amounts of yellow and gold. Dude, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah, I think this is more just his ego is going to like be happenstance that it's the weakness to the greens. Yep. However, there is always the possibility that he somehow already knows about them and like he's decked out in gold because he knows this is their weakness.
No, I just think he's that gaudy person that
That's why,
cold with success. But the fact that Ewing and Jahnoy Lindsay are highlighting the amount of gold that he's wearing, I just think it's going to be like, this is the worst possible person to show up for all of this type of stuff. It's someone that loves gold.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, I'm definitely excited to eventually get to like whatever Sinestro's going to be in this universe, but it's kind of fun to get to someone like him first up. Anand. I mean, is this technically the end of the first arc? This is issue 4, so I think there's maybe one more, perhaps.
Yeah, this does feel not like a cliffhanger, but like an end piece. Like, all right, we're now we have, because Joe's still dealing with Hal and his Black Hand, Dark Star, whatever we're calling it.
We're still doing that, and I can still buy that there's more flashbacks right after the ship crashes as well. I can see there being more after that, so I think maybe there's probably at least one more continuing this current like format of going backwards and forwards.
And also this whole process of the Green Lanterns, coming over, taking these people, weighing them for judgment, and then like, do they return them? Is this just part of the process? Is this how they find the person, right, that is meant to hold the green? And now Joe, because of her, because of what she did, now the power has been thrusted upon her, in a way, which will make her.
That last part's definitely true either way. I think the most obvious interpretation of what this judgment is for is deciding a new Green Lantern. However, I feel like in some ways that's almost so simple that maybe that's just the only thing we can guess, because it's the only thing that kind of fits in our understanding of what Green Lantern normally is. It could be something that we couldn't even possibly like predict or think about, you know? Maybe they're building an arc because they know the universe is coming to an end, so they're trying to save enough humans from Earth to keep us going, kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, because this is Darkseid's universe too. So like, if the people of Oa are onto the whole Great Darkness, then maybe that's their thing. They're trying to find the worthy, that are worth the arc, and that's why what she did was this chaotic action and as an anomaly. It was something that they didn't take, didn't think through. Because this is very much Green Lantern meets kind of Arrival, the Denis Villeneuve movie. So
a little bit,
really enjoying this one. Like that Soul Punch panel with all those little, like, I'm gonna call them Easter eggs, right? With the Zudarian, which what looks like, Sinestro.
I would go a step further and say they're teases. I don't think these are just Easter eggs or just by like, we want to just kind of. Like, I think these are all things that they're planning to get to in the course of the story.
That's a better phrase, what you do, like teases. That's a much better word for it than an Easter egg. But it's this book. I mean, it's still Green Lantern, but it's just different enough where I'm still so intrigued by where this, like, not where it goes, right? Because we kind of have that feeling, but how much Ewing is tweaking Green Lantern mythos and it's still working. This concept of the core and, the yellow light and the dark stars, all this other stuff. Like I'm wondering if we're ever going to get Manhunters and what that's going to be like. Because imagine like they had the Manhunters that ran this system, but they had the same problem. They were too mechanical, too logical. And that's why now the Abin Sur is doing it and this weird hybridization of it,
I don't know. It's kind of hard to say, but I do really think that this issue and last issue really, like, I mean, I enjoyed the first two, but I think this one and last one have really kind of felt like it's came together, and like we've got a bit more of a solid footing, and we're kind of like trying to now theorize about how this version of the Lantern mythos is going to work, how the spectrum is going to work, as because I assume the other colors are going to exist, like the other. Whether or not they're Lantern cores yet, or they're something a little bit different, but
I'm wondering, because the symbol for the Green Lanterns in this it's that ring of light. So I'm wondering if how the Green Lanterns are is that green is the easiest for them to touch into, but if they kind of have that power and like the opposite side of the spectrum, the red, the orange, the yellow, that kind of the Dark Star can kind of get in there, right? And that's what we're kind of seeing as it bleeds through. Like it's all one power source, right? But it's what they're choosing to tap into. That's what makes it the spectrum.
I mean, it's impossible to predict how they're going to treat it rules-wise in this universe, so I'm not even going to start to speculate. I just don't. There's no footing yet to even start, so I'm not even going to. But I'm excited to find out what they're doing with it and like how they start to tease maybe some of the other Spectrum energy coming in. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's me. I don't know if I've got anything else to add. So no, good stuff. I think the big payoff to, I think the idea that we just assumed that Hal did something bad because he's currently the one attached to something that's making him do bad things. I don't think any of us predicted that Joe's the one who accidentally did something bad. So that's kind of a neat twist. And then also just this big climactic moment where the ship falls out the sky. It feels big. It feels epic. You know, they do those 3 vertical panels of it falling out the sky to give you the sense of the trajectory going down. And then obviously the big 2-page spread of the actual blast. And I love that the blast itself almost looks like the top half of a Green Lantern symbol. It's got the dome, and then there's like a ring above it that makes it look like the line at the top. Like very intentional design there, I feel like. So really good stuff. And then of course the green of the ship really stands out against the orange desert on that next page when you see it in the broad daylight. So yeah, no, solid, great book. Having a good time. Excited to see where we go next with it. Matt, what are you giving Absolute Green Lantern?
I'm in the shade 8.
I'm going to 8.5. I'm going to 8.5.
Right.
Having a good time. So there you go. All right. Batgirl issue 9, Tate Brombal rating with Takeshi Miyazawa on the art. So nice to have Miyazawa back on the book.
Yes.
This does lead out directly from what we were doing before, with Cass getting off the train and looking for Bronze Tiger. Although this issue, before we get to kind of the payoff to that, we introduced the fact that there's 3 assassins coming for Cass. We have, I mean, it's not until later we get the actual like names and what clans they come from, but there's 3 very different assassins all on the way. One's from the Unburied, one's from whatever. We'll get to it later because we'll get to those pages. I can't remember them off the top of my head.
They're very Kill Bill. Just the way that they sword number 1 and the distance away from Batgirl they are, and then sword number 2, and there's just very, I don't know, it's not a pulpiness, but I'm lacking the right word for it.
But I mean, there's a bit of a
something
pulpiness
about it.
There's a bit of a pulpiness. I think it's not in a bad way. It's just kind of a fun, simple idea. It makes you excited, and then the issue actually ends with the first one showing up. Well, that's what the cliffhanger is, because once we get into the main part of the issue, it's mostly a conversation between 2 characters. It's Cass talking to Bronze Tiger and wanting answers. And she shows up on a horse. We get this full page spread of Cass on a horse in her Batgirl outfit. It's really quite something. But Cass shows up and demands to know what is the Jade Tiger. And Bronze Tiger just keeps kind of dodging the question. I loved her narration here, whereas he's like saying stuff and trying to steal the conversation, she's kind of like describing it as like fighting moves, where she's like, that was a jab, that was a cover-up, that was a parry, he's trying to cross us into something else. Like she keeps kind of like doing that, and then it does the thing with the art where it keeps going back to panels of the kettle, which is like boiling. So the idea that it represents the conversation bubbling up and getting more heated until the tensions are going to rise and kind of eventually break. So, and it does reference things that we got in the backstory where Bronze Tiger talks about being with Shiva's sister, and how he was close with her, and how they kind of tried to be heroes and it all fell apart and all the rest of it. So, I actually really enjoyed it. As much as it's mostly a conversation, I think it's really well paced, and the way it kind of keeps escalating. And Cass obviously just looks angry like the whole time because he won't talk about what she wants him to actually talk about.
The furrowed eyes are doing so much work.
Oh yeah,
right, because it's so full of expression, despite the fact that her mask lacks expression. Right, so the fact that the artist is being able to navigate it in that way is really, really good stuff.
Yeah, they reference the past of Bronze Tiger being one of the ones that helped train her. Although he does acknowledge or point out that wasn't really him because he was brainwashed and being controlled, which I'm assuming that's in an old Batgirl series or something, but I didn't know that, so that's interesting. So yeah, things get a bit more heated, and when she tries to get a fight going with him, and he's trying to like not do it, he's trying to like just kind of calm things down or kind of evade, but she's like, no, tell me what the hell the Jade Tiger is. This is the reason my mother sent me here. What is the Jade Tiger? And out comes this young guy in green who breaks up the fight. And of course, before they even say it, you're like, oh, this is Jade Tiger. Jade Tiger's a person. Mm-hmm. This is why she was sent here. And you're like, oh, what are they about to reveal about who this guy is? And it doesn't take a bit of rocket science, but the revelation here is that Jade Tiger is Cassie's half brother. This is a child that Bronze Tiger had with Shiva. So the idea that after Shiva's sister was killed, at some point Shiva and Bronze Tiger got a bit smoochy, and it led to a brother for Cass.
Look, this is not going to do anything good for Cass's mom issues. Because the whole thing with Shiva and not wanting to be her mom, and like her being a weapon and not having any value outside of that with David Kane. Now there's another kid that she had with Bronze Tiger that Cass didn't even know about.
And presumably this kid that she had with Bronze Tiger was not something that, because she with David Kane, it was like David Kane's like, I've got this plan. I want the ultimate child. You're going to give me a child. This kid might have been, I wouldn't say out of love, because I don't know if she was in a mood to love after her sister was killed, but at the very least there was like genuine passion perhaps between her and Bronze Tiger. I don't think they were just aiming to have a kid. I mean, who knows? Who knows? Maybe we'll find out otherwise, but at least right now.
Yeah, grief makes people do weird things, right? But the fact that the whole feeling of Cass that she was unwanted, now there's this other kid here that seemingly is wanted because he's with Bronze Tiger. Right, he's kept hidden. No one's after Jade Tiger, it looks like, in the way that they're after Cass. So, there's all these levels that going on for her, and my heart goes out for her.
Yeah, I mean, arguably he's still unwanted, but more in a traditional sense, where it was just an accidental pregnancy, as opposed to Cassie's whole thing. Yeah, what I mean by unwanted is her whole vibe with her mom, and feeling like Shiva just always treated her like, not a weapon, but like she was always there. There was none of that maternal stuff until, kind of reading this. And that's what Tate Brombal kind of brought to those first, couple issues. So, and just the fact that there's this other kid here and in addition to the family, and how's Cass going to take that? Because we know how she is with family now, right? She considers Bruce her dad. So, and what does he do? He collects children. So is she going to be more open to this? I hope so. Right, because this is, another, not an ally per se, but another person that she can share, commonalities with. Yeah, and they build to this reveal in the art with, because when Bronze Tiger says, oh, she's like the greatest fighter on the planet, Jade Tiger's like, oh yeah, finally a challenge. I've been waiting for this. So we get this fight scene that plays out over a 2-page layout. And Cass is like, wait, I recognize this training. There's Bronze Tiger in these skills. There's Shiva in these skills. This kid's been trained by a lot of the same people, although not David Kane, obviously. Right. And ultimately she says, well, how do you know Shiva? And, she's like, how do you know my mother? And she gets right in his face. It's a super tense moment. And Bronze Tiger is actually yelling, don't. Like, he doesn't want him to reveal who he is. And then this is when he's like, wait, you're Cassandra Cain. Up until this point, I don't think we even realized that he wouldn't know who's under the mask. He kind of clocks it when she says that Shiva's her mother. And he's like, oh, I'm Tenji Turner. I'm Shiva's son, along with Bronze Tiger there. And I love how the art draws like one eyebrow up behind her mask. There's like a sort of confusion as she says what to that. I was kind of into that reveal.
Also, he says he's the son of two of the world's greatest heroes, Bronze Tiger and Lady Shiva. I would not consider either of those heroes. So how sheltered is he as well?
Well, I almost don't read it as that though. Like I think that Bronze Tiger has his anti-hero stories here or there, so I can kind of see maybe where he's coming from with that. To me, what this suggests is that there's a whole side to Shiva that Cass has never seen, and that's going to like further this idea of like, oh, there's a whole like nice side to her that she never even showed me, but this other kid was getting to see all this heroic stuff that she's been doing. So I think it's going to like further kind of wedge that, and I really like the callback to the start of this issue, because I remember how I said her narration talks about how, Bronze Tiger's jabbing, he's covering up, he's trying to deflect the conversation. As her brother, Tenji, starts to like say, hey, I'm your brother, Cassie, and he starts talking to her. I mean, even just calling her Cassie feels like most people don't refer to her that way. And he's trying to like talk to her and like kind of like get to know her or whatever. And she's saying, no, stop. And her narration is saying, I evade, I cover up, I jab. And now she's on the defensive in this conversation. Mm-hmm. And it's showing that she wasn't prepared for this. She went into this like house all confident. She's here for answers. She's going to be in charge of the fight, the conversation the whole time. And now she's caught off guard. And now she's the one who's like trying to evade and be defensive about it. I really like that kind of flip from the start of the issue.
Yeah.
And it shows that this revelation's gotten to her. And I don't mind this reveal for what it's worth. Like, I think that it, like, because I don't think that this is ever going to be a thing where all of a sudden, like, we're going to have this brother of Cassandra be like this character who's constantly around her, right? Like that. It feels more like it's important for her story and the idea that like there's other sides to Shiva she didn't know about, and this is someone else you can have maybe a weird relationship with, but probably healthier than Shiva, because this guy seems a bit nicer than Shiva ever did. So, you know, maybe it'd be good for her to kind of try and, you know, have someone to like see as a brother, or see as someone she can confide in, or something like that. I don't know. It's I think there's a lot of storytelling potential here, and I think the way she feels uncomfortable and reacting to it and trying to deny that it's real says a lot about her character and how she feels about this right now. That makes me excited to explore. And then obviously the last page right after this is the first assassin. This is Norbu from the Untested.
Norbu the Untested from the Unburied.
That's what I was meant to say. Yes. The Unburied. Yep. And my eye glanced at Untested. Who has the finisher, the Blue Blossom Omni Strike. I like that each of these are going to get finishers like the wrestlers, but all right.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway. I also like in the art when Cass is reacting to everything, there's that red background behind her where, you know, everything's in focus with them, and then the eye jab, and she shoves him like to the ground as she's trying to get space, you know. Like, she doesn't want to accept this. Like, he's bringing it in, but she still hasn't processed it. So again, the art's doing some really cool stuff with body language.
I think it's that, but I think it's also this idea that the background goes red as she's in like super evade mode, but when she pushes him down to the ground, it goes back to just the normal background, the sky, the fence, whatever. But then when you hear the assassins show up and saying Batgirl, the sky, it goes red again behind her, and to me, that's indicating it's red in the background because she's on alert, she's on the defensive, and it comes back and like the actual, so it tells you in hindsight that those earlier two panels are her on the defensive. They're her with her guard up. So I like there's a lot of smart stuff going on in the storytelling here, and I think that for a book that is mostly a conversation between two characters, it does a really good job of pacing it well and making it feel like it's building to a crescendo, building to like big revelations, and then the revelation that now Shiva told her to come here so that she'd find out she has a brother. That's ultimately why Shiva sent her here, seemingly, right? It's not because there's something else that she wants Cassandra to do. It's more, oh, she should know she's got a brother. She should like be able to, you know, build a bridge there and maybe form some kind of bond or something. So I don't know. I think this is really good stuff. Like I was not super hot in the last two issues, especially the one couple ago, just because I thought it was really wordy, and I thought the backstory with Shiva was like kind of just bearing down on everything. I think this issue, though, took some of the things we learned in the last issue and had it come up in a more casual way. And I think the reveal about the brother is actually really interesting for Cassie's character. So, no, I'm pretty on board with this.
I know they're all the same amount of pages, but this read so much quicker, right, than a lot of the other stuff, which was a lot of exposition backstory in the last two issues.
Yes.
So I appreciate that for sure. But yeah, no, really, really good stuff, man. I'm still enjoying this Batgirl book.
Yeah, just really smart sequencing. The art's doing a lot of good stuff to really give you the sense of all these different things. Also, Cass like hits her brother into like the pen outside, you know, for the sheep or whatever it is. And I'm just laughing at that because I'm looking back at that panel now. It's like he's going over the top rope just because I referenced the assassin have a finishing move. It's almost like they're actually in a wrestling ring right now with this fence around them. So I'm excited to see how the other two assassins show up, and I'm excited to see Cass reluctantly bond with her brother, and where that comes, and maybe where that leads down the line. Is this someone she can call in for help down the line when she's in the Birds of Prey? She's like, hey, I've got someone we can call in. I've got a brother or something, Also, do we get like a sweet moment where she introduces him to the Bat family, and she's like, hey, Tenji, here's my 4 other brothers. This is Nightwing, this is Robin, this is Red Robin.
You have some major competition. God, she wants to pit Damien against him because they're both like these adept fighters. And it's like, oh yeah, Tenji, Damien is the best fighter I've ever seen. Just watch him go off.
Yeah, but who's that a prank on? Is that a prank on Damien so that Damien will get beat up, or is it a prank on Tenji because he has to put up with Damien for the rest of the day? I don't know.
I would think it's on Tenji. It's how he earns his marks. Because we know he's a skilled fighter. Like he goes toe to toe with Cass, so he is good.
Yeah, but ultimately loses is the thing. Cass is still the best.
Yes,
worth mentioning.
Yes.
All right. What are you giving Batgirl, Matt?
I'm giving this an 8.5.
Yeah, honestly, I have a hard time disagreeing with that. 8.5 for me as well. So that's Batgirl. Birds of Prey, issue 23, legacy number 221. Kelly Thompson writing with Sami Basri on the art. So, we had the big cliffhanger last time with the headquarters blowing up. And the first half of this issue, or maybe first third, is basically Cass, Dinah, and Sin.
Yeah. Megira.
And obviously Megira's in there as well. They're basically like, oh shit, like, did we just watch Cass die? And Dinah's like, look, there's protocol for this. If our home base is ever attacked, we split up, we go our own ways, and then meet up later at a predetermined location. That's what the protocols are. That's what Barbara came up with. So, and I didn't listen to her earlier and we get into a fight, so let's listen to her now. So we get this cool little set of pages here where they do split up and they look kind of sad. And we see Cass like switch into her civvies and go eat some food. And it's just kind of this sad little time. And she sees like 2 friends outside. One of them saying, "Oh no, you promised." And she's like, "No, come on, it'll be fun." And clearly it's making her sad because she's missing her friend. You see Sin go to an arcade and play some racing games, and Megira tries to comfort her. So that relationship's oddly getting a little bit sweeter as time goes on.
I like how that goes, that it's her reflection talking to her in the dark screen of the video game. I thought that was a real nice touch. Yeah, no, it's a nice touch. And then Dinah's at a bar, shooing away a guy who's trying to talk to her. But, walk away before you go through that plate glass window. Oh, man, that's great. So they all meet up at an alleyway, and they're like, okay, let's go to the new safe house. And they go into the sewers, they go into like a big vault door, only to find that Babs is already there with Sela, right? So she's fine, she was always fine, but we just, I thought it was a really nice thing, because it wasn't like malicious, or not malicious, that's not the word. It wasn't manipulative, is what I'm trying to say. Because ultimately we are worried about Babs with the characters as they're worried about her. So we get this sense of relief, but it does make sense that, oh no, Babs got rid of the base and blew it up herself because, frankly, the villains were coming and there's so much sensitive material in all of her computers about all the heroes in the world that we cannot risk them getting that. So this was just, again, she was following protocol. So you get this it's the number one. Yeah, you get this big great moment where Dinah and Sin hug her, then Cass comes in and we get this kind of like, really nice 4-way hug happening, and everyone's like relieved that Babs is okay. So it's just a really heartwarming moment, and then we get into kind of the business of the rest of the book, which is obviously, okay, who are these villains? What are they doing? They were able to get the drop on us and they kind of freaked us all out. What do we do to fight back? What are the advantages we have? And Babs kind of comes up with the idea that, look, these people are working together, but they probably don't make a very good team. They probably don't like that they have a leader, and that's something we can hopefully exploit.
It seems like all the members have been picked to like take on each of us individually. Like this one's a good fighter, so she's good. She's like maybe a match for Cass. To which Cass is like, hey,
yeah,
like we'll see. Copperhead's good against Dinah because the Sonics don't work on him as much, and the other one, the Golden Lion, what was his name? Can maybe try and separate Megira from Sin. So they're like, okay, so we've got all this, but what do we do? And it's like, well, we still have the problem of Barda being controlled. We've got a name. We figured out the villain's called Ink that's controlling her. And they're like, yeah, but we saw it separate for a second, and we saw Barda inside. So if we can overwhelm her enough, we might be able to get through. Let's come up with a plan. So, I mean, this was a good sort of scene of the book, I thought, because it was like a really nice, like, we're spending most of this arc like teasing out who these villains are and what they're doing. This was actually like a very nice like recap where all of our main characters kind of summarize, okay, this is who they are, this is what they can do, and this is how they've been effective so far. It was really nice just in case that, if the audience or the readers hadn't put it together at this point, like who some of these characters are or what they were doing. This was a nice sort of laying it out on the table, right? So that as we're going into the final phase of the arc, we can kind of like all understand the score and what the risks are, what the dangers are, and kind of keep everyone sort of up to speed. So I really like that. And then, of course, they're like, okay, we're going to track them down because of the signals coming off of the hacker or whoever it is. Like, it's easy to track them. Mm-hmm. So they go and ambush them. We get a bit of fighting. They try and take on Barda, consumed by ink. Megira tries fighting her. Cass tries fighting her. But there's a little moment here where Dinah like supersonics like a little window of sound into the face of Barda, just so that Barda's real eye can see through and see that she's strangling Cass, and immediately drops her. Immediately goes back to being villainous, but it's this idea that if like Barda can see out into the world, like she can kind of try and regain a little bit of control back. So that was a fun moment, I thought.
I also like that in the narration that Dinah's doing, it says Barda told me that she has more trouble with bladed weapons than blunt force, and that's why it inspires her to do like the little, what is she called, a laser-like sonic, But she also adds, and by trouble I mean it slightly bothers her more. So like it's this thing like her knowledge of Barda, because they've talked, right, and they're these teammates. She uses that to kind of get the edge here, just break through ink just a little bit, but it costs Dinah because she's the one. Cass gets dropped, but then Dinah gets knocked down, by Ink Barda. But yeah, I just like that whole sequence. It was really cool.
Yeah, I think it's interesting as well, looking back at the issue, that like pretty much everything's in dark locations, whether it's alleyways, the safe house in the sewers, or it's just nighttime outside. Everything's kind of like bathed in darkness, even the happier moments when the characters are reunited. But you get to this villain's lair in the last like scene, and everything's very bright. It's all bright, like white. It's almost like pastel pinks and blues that are in the background. And I think one reason for that is that it really makes Barda, like covered in ink, stand out, because she's just this sort of pitch black character right now. But I think part of it also might be this sense of hope that we're fighting back. And then the final page kind of goes back to a black background, and the final page is the reveal that Dinah's called in the reserves. So it's like, okay, you predicted you'd be fighting these 5 Birds of Prey team members, but you didn't predict the rest of them, which is Harley, Sela's here with was it Pose, the creature that can turn into the dragon looking thing.
Yeah, but now it's a Chinese looking dragon. Before it was a wolf. You have Vixen, you have Grace, I'm forgetting the other girl, and then Constantine. So it's everyone that's had a mission with them thus far, which I really liked. Yeah,
it's everyone who's been in one of the arcs of this run. Yeah, is showing up
Onyx.
To help here.
Yeah, her name's Onyx. So
I would never in a million years have told you that it was Onyx.
Yep. So, but yeah, I like that, and just the idea too that they needed to have some shadows so Sela could use her power to come through. So also in contrast to all that brightness, it was almost like they were trying to counteract that, but the birds found a way regardless. So
yeah, because the panels in the page before that final page are them smashing some of the lights to make a bigger shadow.
Yeah.
Because when they first get teleported in near the villain's lair, they complain that, oh wait, this was a really cramped like entrance, and it's because they're in like a closet, and it's because this was the only place with shadows. So yeah, it does seem like, I mean, whether or not they knew they were counteracting Sela's powers or not, maybe they did. And there's even that interesting little quirk as well, where two of these characters, right, Golden Lion and the other one, whose name I can't remember,
Velvet Tiger,
thank you, which is confusing now that we've got a Jade Tiger along with the Bronze Tiger in the other book, but whatever. Like, that's the parents of Sela, and like, you know, the whole thing in the future about, you know, the mother dying, that's what leads to all that plot that we got about the other, you know, dimension that the sisters created. You know, all that stuff. She says to Dinah, hey, could you try and not kill them, because otherwise I won't be born? And she's like, yeah. And then Dinah's like, wait, this is a concern. Like, because she exists, does that mean we lose, or does it just mean that we incapacitate them, and therefore, like, you know, we win the fight and we save the day here, but they're still around to have kids later? Like, that's something that's going into Dinah's mind as she's getting into this fight, which I like. I think that's one of the things that I appreciated about some of this stuff in the back half of this issue, is that it really felt not just the literal bringing back the other team members in the last page, which is kind of the ultimate like version of it, but it felt like a lot of the stuff in the previous arcs was coming up as we were going through this issue, where it was like, okay, we're bringing up Sela's whole family line thing that we were doing a whole arc back in the second arc of the book. Obviously, all the Madeira Sin stuff is what the first arc was all focusing on. And it feels like just all these things are still very relevant, and it makes it feel like a really well thought out comic book run, where it feels like Kelly Thompson's not just doing arc by arc and just coming up with new ideas. It feels like there's a whole, you know, like she's making a TV show where she's like, no, there's like there's a ongoing narrative that's kind of like coming in, where all these arcs matter as we go forward, and we're it's important, and it's making it very satisfying to have read the run from the start, because they're not just all individual stories that stick out on their own, which I appreciate. I like that in a comic book run. So
yeah, this is weirdly what Gail Simone's Secret Six felt like, where at the beginning you're just like, oh, there's a ragtag group of characters thrown together, but by the third arc, they're fully a team, and there's, you know, interpersonal dynamics and characters that pop in and out, you know, where it feels like this, you know, like, again, like a team book. And I feel like here, sometimes the danger of the Birds of Prey book, it becomes Babs and Dinah plus whoever else, you know. And here, no, it really feels like this is the team, right? There's the interpersonal dynamics between them all, you know, just like the stuff with Cass and Barda, right? And that's what Dinah uses to, you know, get a leg up. So some really expert storytelling from Kelly Thompson here. Yeah. Going forward. And I just hope, like, this keeps going, right? Because it almost, to me, it also feels like we're rounding a corner. We're entering like an end game kind of thing. And I just hope this goes as long as she needs it to.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, you'll still be getting solicited up until at least September, right? So we've got at least another arc after this. But yeah, I hope so too. I hope this goes to a nice 50 plus issues or whatever we can maybe get to. But yeah, we're already in the 20s now. So that's nice. It's still feeling fairly healthy at its current. I mean, it seems like we're going to get at least to 30 issues at this point, and that's cool. It's cool that we're going to get to at least that point, and if we get a little bit further than that, then that'll be cool too. So, but it does really feel like all the previous arcs are mattering here, and they're like things from them are popping up in these different ways. And like you said, using the relationship between Cass and Barda as an actual narrative, like emotional focal point of like, oh, try and talk to her and bring her back from the brink. It's kind of, you know, sweet, and it pays off in the fact that she's done a really good job, Thompson, that is, of building that relationship since the very first arc, so that now when one of them's in jeopardy and we're trying to, like, you know, have the other one like save them or talk them down from something, it has a lot of weight to it, and that's kind of the point we're at now, where we care about all this stuff. So very good. And I really like that first chunk as well, where they're all worried about Babs. I like the tone. It felt like everything slowed down for a second and we got a chance to breathe, which was really nice in the context of the whole arc. So yeah, really nice. What are you giving Birds of Prey, Matt?
I'm at 9.
Oh, I feel like I'm going with a third 8.5, but 8.5. It's an 8.5 kind of week. So no, very good, very good. All right. JSA issue 9, Jeff Lemire writing with Diego Olortegui on the art. So, this has been a pretty disappointing book for the most part throughout its run. And while I do think the last couple issues were a little better, it's still not quite really anything close to what I wanted it to be. And this issue, I think this issue hurts a little bit, Matt, because not because it's even that bad, right? It's I think it's better than most of the first like 5 or 6 issues. However, the problem is that this issue has payoffs to things that were all set up in those first 5 or 6 issues, and I still don't really care. And that's the problem. I feel kind of sad because none of this stuff is landing, and that's where I'm feeling sad here.
There's still so many balls in the air, and this is issue 9. Like, I don't feel like we're getting close to any kind of resolution. You know? Like, I don't even know where the story's going. I know they're the Injustice Gang, Injustice Society, whatever we're calling them, wants the Spear of Destiny, and they're doing that on multiple fronts and stuff. But again, to what end? What's the here? And there's so many characters to try to keep track of. And then, like you said, we're getting payoffs to stuff that had happened 6 issues ago that I kind of forgot about because there's so many other things going on. So it's just like, and again, it's not bad. I don't dislike anything that I read. It's just, I find it hard to care.
It's just underwhelming. I just don't feel like it's the complete opposite of Birds of Prey right now, where everything in Birds of Prey feels like a great payoff to stuff that was set up arcs ago. Or it's bringing things in and making stuff feel important again. With this, though, there was so much juggling, and even though this idea of, like, okay, Sorrow has been impersonating Obsidian and the team don't know about it, and this issue literally has the big reveal at the end where Dr. Midnight, who's dragging the real Obsidian through the snow, whilst Obsidian in his head is actually trapped in the 5th dimension with... who's he trapped with again?
He has the Thunderbolts.
Yes, right? Jakeem. That's what I was like.
Johnny and Jakeem.
Well, no, well, Johnny's new in this issue. We didn't know that before.
Right. Gotcha.
Just to be clear,
that's who he's been in there with.
The point I'm making, though, is that like that he's been trapped at. We thought it was just in his head. This issue reveals it's actually the 5th dimension, but he's been trapped with Jakeem. You know, for several issues at this point. We found out about that maybe in like issue 3 or 4 of the book or something to that effect. I can't really remember at this point, but like that's been going on along with the real Obsidian's body being with Dr. Midnight, and of course the fake Obsidian's actually Johnny Sorrow with the JSA. And this issue finally has the big reveal where Dr. Midnight's able to send a call to the others and say, hey, the Obsidian with you is a fake, blah blah blah. And it feels like that should be a big deal. It feels like it should be a big deal that we finally had these characters discover that they've been with an imposter this whole time. And I think part of the problem with it is that for this reveal to feel like it matters, I think we should have spent way more time with the fake Obsidian, like with the team, like manipulating them and like pushing them to do things, and maybe even like having like him still having to fake who he is when they're having like an emotional conversation with him or something, so that it feels truly kind of like violating that he's not really been him for the last like month or whatever it's been for these characters. I think that would make this feel like a bigger deal where they've finally realized. But all we've ever really seen like fake Obsidian be is just like kind of like angsty and just complaining a lot. Like he's always argumentative. It would actually be far more hurtful, I think, if he'd been doing a good job of pretending to be like a decent brother and a decent member of the team throughout this time, but slyly manipulating them to do other things. I don't know.
Yeah. Johnny Sorrow is an actual demon, right? But all he does is make Obsidian seem more emo than he is. Yeah, because he's not doing any of the stuff that we would think of a demon doing, where it's like sowing distrust between the members, right? That's what we should have seen, is him like making them not trust each other, and you know, be like, I don't know, Jade, you're getting a little bit too close to sand. What, you know, what's his game?
And
you know,
to your point about like just making him seem more emo, it's like in this issue, he literally comes storming in because Jade's having a conversation with her dad, Alan Scott. And he's saying, no, you've been a great leader, Jade. You've done the best you could. It was impossible circumstance. And he's been all nice with his daughter. And Obsidian comes in and is like, not even talking about how good I've been doing, I see. I'm just a loser to you, Dad. I'm like, this just isn't like I'm just not excited by this. Come on.
The person that has that enjoys a dark sense of humor that lives within me, right? I just would have loved Alan Scott to be like, yeah, no, you are a disappointment, Todd. Like you wear this thing, you wield your mother's powers of darkness. You think you're the leader, but you gotten us lost, and just let him have it, and not realizing it that he's letting it go on Johnny Sorrow. So yeah, but that would be interesting, and we're not the JSA book is anything but at this point. I just feel like we're just going through some of these motions of assembling, the Spear of Destiny. So,
what's so sad about this?
Ultimately, yeah.
What's so sad about this is that one of the reasons why I thought Lemire was a great pick for a JSA book was because of Black Hammer. Black Hammer is this team book of these old heroes who've kind of like fallen by the wayside, and it's so well done, and all the characters feel fully fleshed out, and you really care. There's a great atmosphere and sort of sense of sorrow to everything. And here, it just, like you say, it's just going through the motions. It feels like he's got like 50 characters that he wants to play with. And they're all just kind of in these roles, and I just don't feel anything for anything that's going on. So, very strange. Anywho, so basically Obsidian, fake Obsidian, that is, Johnny Sorrow, when he's talking to Alan Scott and that, he's like, hey, we took out those Cobra agents. They mentioned Hawkman's secret museum. We have to find that. Dad, you know where it is? And he's like, yeah, I know where it is. He's only told me and Jay, but it's on Black Hawk Island, blah, blah, blah. And obviously, because it's actually Johnny Sorrow, this is all being broadcast to the bad guys, and they're like, oh, there we go. We're going to go right there, right now, and get the Spear of Destiny. It's time. So...
And I get it. Alan's talking to his kids who he thinks he can trust.
Yeah.
And stuff. But the idea of Hawkman having a secret museum, which is like, just lock that stuff up in the Hall of Justice or the JSA Brownstone, somewhere really secure. You know what I mean? Just the idea of Hawkman having this secret museum that the JSA could just go visit and be like, oh, look at all this dangerous stuff. It's just out. I
mean, you say that.
It's very silly.
Well, yeah, but you say that, but no one knows it's there, so it's actually been more secure than like how many times has the JSA headquarters been attacked?
Well, true. I just have umbrage with the idea of Hawkman's secret museum.
I mean, it's
like, all right, I get it.
It's the least of my issues with the book.
I know, but it's just a silly thing that I don't know. I already wasn't enjoying it, and then I didn't even know about Quisp, who's this fifth dimensional imp, who's apparently been around forever. Were you aware of this character?
I was not, but obviously when they're in the so it's in the maze, and it's Jakeem and Obsidian, and they find Johnny Thunder, and for some reason they can summon the Thunderbolt together. I don't even know why that necessarily works here. However, these names come up of Quisp, and then there's the other one, right? And then they also say Thunderbolt's original real name, which is like Zix.
Ease.
Yeah. Whatever. Ease. As they were saying all these, I'm like, these all sound like Mixie-Pitalik style names. These are all so when they said it's the fifth dimension, I was like, okay, all right, that actually makes some sense. This feels fine enough. Like I have no problem with that reveal in and of itself.
Oh yeah, I just never knew about this character, so I just felt like it came out of like so I looked up Quisp, and it's not like it's a JSA villain from the day. It's Quisp is a fifth dimensional imp that gives Aquaman trouble, so he's like Aquaman's Mixie, so it's just weird to have him pop up here, and again, fifth dimension and all of that. But yeah, again, I that was the I think the strongest part of the issue for me was the stuff with Johnny and Jakeem and Obsidian getting through the fifth dimension in that maze, and just the way that Olortegui draws the borders around there as like a labyrinth. I think that looks really, cool. Gives it this sense like you're kind of wandering. And then the rest of the book just kind of happens. But yeah, I like that part a whole lot.
Yeah, there's also a 2-page scene that I forgot about until now because I'm looking through it as we talk, and that is a scene where Yolanda's at a bar just getting drunk because she's depressed about Wildcat's death, and Khalid comes in and like demands that she like get back into the fight. Like Wildcat would want us to keep fighting, blah 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 blah, and they're just kind of angry the whole scene, and I get why they are, but like honestly, we've seen very little out of them in this run to like give them more depth. That it just kind of feels a little bit hollow to me right now. Plus, he gets ID'd when he walks into the bar, and he's like, "Dude, I'm 21 and I'm a doctor," and I'm like, "Yeah, 21's the drinking age in America, so 21's exactly the age where you should expect to be ID'd because you're right on the brink of maybe you are, maybe you aren't." So you being a doctor is irrelevant to the situation, Khalid.
Yeah, Doogie Howser was still 16. Doesn't matter what his medical degree says. He can't go to a bar. You know?
No.
So
when I was asked ID once when I was already bald with a beard, I'm like, seriously, dude, like, look at me. like I look like I owe 2 mortgages. What are you talking about?
Sort of my wife's favorite thing to be ID'd when we go to a bar. And then, out here in Vegas, it's just part of the process. They ID everybody. It doesn't matter. But, they think I'm young. And I go, yeah, it's because you look young, honey. And just let that go. Because that's not a fight that I want to have. No, I get ID'd. It's the same reaction as you. I was like, come on, man. I have white in my beard. All right. And I look like I've seen some things.
Hey, next time, you should pull the, like, when she gets ID and she's all happy about it, say, oh, no, I'm sure they're just IDing you to see if you qualify for the senior discount. See how that goes.
The AARP. Yeah, the AARP.
The over 60s get half price booze. They're just checking to see if you're in that range.
But Pete, I like living, so I'm just not gonna do that. The scene with them, though, I do appreciate it because these two have been through it, right? She loses her mentor. He's lost the helm of Naboo, and that's the whole reason that the bad guys are able to do all the bad stuff that they're doing. So I do like that Lemire's taking time to kind of let us know, but it's almost like half in, half out. He doesn't fully commit. So like you said, it's just the 2 pages, and it's just like they're just angry. I feel like there's no other thing to it, but I do appreciate the effort here.
Yeah, final scene, of course, is the big fight because Dr. Midnight's in the snow and Scandal Savage shows up to fight her. And it's her communicator that she ends up grabbing after she's knocked her out to communicate with the JSA. And that's the big cliffhanger is Johnny Sorrow just throwing away the illusion and being like, yeah, it's me, bitches. Here I am.
I like the looks like he's bowing.
Yeah.
I do like that. He's still has such a cool look, man. I feel like we didn't see him enough because he was masquerading as Obsidian. So, red suit, theater mask.
Yeah, the floating mask is a great look. He's always had a great creepy look to him. I've always been into that.
If we talk about one of the first trades I ever bought, well, it wasn't a trade. It was the JLA, JSA, Virtue and Vice, where he's the main villain. I had no idea who Johnny Sorrow was, but it was written by Johns and Goyer. I forget who did the art, but essentially the 7 Deadly Sins get out, and the JLA and JSA have to team up and put it back in. But that was the first time I'd ever seen Johnny Sorrow, and I was like, this guy's cool. And then he's been kind of far and few between. So having him here, it's cool. Like, I love this last image with Alan Scott and Jade, and him kind of in that taking a bow pose. Yeah. He's like, hey, we got you now. Like, there's just this swagger to him.
Yeah. Having said that, I don't love Olortegui's art, that much. I don't think it's bad per se. I think the layouts are fine enough, and you do get a sense of the emotions and all the characters and all that. But there's definitely just a little bit of that Romita Jr.-esque quality to some of the line work and kind of the scratches. Like he loves to do the lines across the nose for whatever reason. Like almost every page, like if you get like a panel looking at a character like anywhere close up, you'll get like 4 or 5 lines going across the nose for some reason, and I don't know why. And it's not the only issue here, but it's kind of indicative of what's going on overall.
I didn't notice it until you just pointed it out. Now I can't unsee it. It's one of those things. But yeah, John Romita Jr. and who else? The Flash guy. Why am I drawing Howard Porter? Have some similarities there. The blockiness.
Yeah.
But I feel like it kind of matches the JSA, so I don't mind it as much. But now that I'm going to look at every close-up with the lines on the nose...
Yeah, unless they have a mask. The mask characters get away without it, but all the characters who don't have a mask on, they get the lines on the nose.
God, I can't see it. Thanks, Pete.
You're welcome.
I didn't worry about it now. Now, anytime I see Olortegui's art, I'm going to be checking for the lines on the nose.
Yeah. I honestly, as I was reading this issue, I was kind of thinking, do I just drop it? And I don't think I will just now, but it's the sort of thing where if, like, a couple more books start on this week that JSA is coming out, it probably would be, you know, if it hasn't improved, it would definitely be kind of on that teetering chopping block line, which is a shame because I love the JSA, and you know, this run sadly has been a little bit of a dud. Like not the worst thing ever, but just completely uninspiring in every way.
Yeah, when you're expecting something great and you get something mediocre, it almost hurts worse than if it was bad. You know. So that's kind of where I am. Where it's like, yeah, I did like the last couple issues though. The Wildcat's funeral one I thought was pretty good. The last issue I didn't mind. This was back to me not enjoying it as much, and it started to be put in that obligation read. I was like, yeah, I'm going to read JSA, but I'm not going to be happy about it. So I would like Lemire to change my mind. Yeah, you know. So
for sure, this is the one this week that felt like work more than just I want to enjoy reading the book. You know. That's a rough split space to be in, and obviously there's always a couple of books that feel that way that I'm willing to keep going with. Looking at you, Batman, right now, or even Superman as well at this point, to be honest.
Yeah. Although with Batman and
Hattush, yes.
There is that train wreck quality, where as bad as it is, at least we're getting an entertaining conversation out of it.
Sure, yeah.
Whereas I feel like Superman's more of this, where we're expecting it to do some cool things, and then we just get the rug pulled out from us continually. So it becomes an annoyance.
We're getting a good Superman story today. Oh no, it's Farm and Graft. Oh no.
God, I hate them so much. Hopefully now they're in jail, we don't have to deal with them anymore. And now we're getting the evil Legion, Darkseid's Legion. So, you know, no more Farm and Graft.
All right, what are you giving JSA, Matt?
I'm giving this a straight 6.
Yeah, 6 out of 10. That sounds about right. Like, it's not terrible. It's just underwhelming. I'm underwhelmed. That's how I feel. So, all right. Resurrection Man, Quantum Karma, issue 4, Ram V writing with Anand RK on the art. So, yes, big heady stuff, and totally understood everything I read in this issue. But just in case, though, I want Matt to confirm everything by telling me what everything meant first. On you go, Matt.
Look, man. I know what I said earlier, and I will say, I do pick up. I had a Buddhism phase when I was in my 20s, where I got really into Eastern concepts. The whole concept of karma, dharma, samsara. These are all words that I know and I'm familiar with. And I get what Ram V is trying to do with Resurrection Man and this whole concept of karma being, you know, what you put out is what you get in return kind of stuff, right? Man that's lived a life, he's done all these things. Then you have the concept of dharma, where dharma is like the rules that you follow, right? These are how you achieve these things. These are kind of your guideposts. And in Buddhism, that was the, you know, the Eightfold Path, right? And that's a little bit different than what's going on here. And then you have samsara, which is kind of, if I remember right, it's like the state of things. It's how things are, right? And so what Ram V is doing here with Resurrection Man and those concepts of this man who's lived a life by a certain set of rules, and now he wants to change how things go because he's tired of that. That's what I think that I got through. I'm not 100% though. Like, I have no idea what's going on with this archer and pulling the arrow back the whole time. You know, like, I get that's supposed to be Mitch Shelley, but I don't get exactly, like, is karma representative of the arrow, or the arrow representative of karma, rather? And it, you know, it only is what it is until you let it go. Like, is that what we're trying to say? I don't know.
I wasn't thinking about karma at all as I was reading. I know he brings it up a couple times, but I wasn't thinking about it in those terms. I will say, I hear dharma. I think dharma initiative. I think,
of course, which lines up with what dharma is, right? They're the ones that, you know, we're trying to change the world by following a certain amount of things. Yeah. So that again, that checks out.
So what this book was to me, is this first page is like, hey, Mitch Shelley, Resurrection Man. Because of lab experiments in 1997, he became Resurrection Man. And I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't vibe with anything we've said in this book up until this point. And I thought, what are they doing with that? This is weird. But by the end of the issue, it kind of like puts it into place. It's almost designed to make you feel like, what the hell? That doesn't make any sense. And then by the end of the issue, it's like, no, Resurrection Man goes to the human target. That's the big reveal at the end, is he goes to the human target to not only like go into like the witness protection, because he brings up other characters who have like seemingly they died, but they show up with a different name somewhere else. He goes to the human target to fake his death, but also because he wants to like have his mind wiped so he doesn't know his history, so that from 1997 onwards, as a safety device against the other Resurrection Man who's trying to find him, he is going to not know who he was or anything from his past. The other big part of this issue, of course, is his guilt over this microverse cube that he betrayed the love of his life for, which he's constantly, upset about, and he's obviously feeling great turmoil about it. So, and we also find out that the Resurrection Man in like the other space, like he came from a world where he killed Vandal Savage, back in the caveman times, and that's kind of that. And then the other thing we get to in this issue is that the villain, whose name I can't pronounce, that we've been setting up, Gash, sure, throughout these issues. We obviously had last issue him eat the hand of Vandal Savage. We find out in this issue that is going to start, that gives him a power to jump through time and space, and he basically becomes this all-consuming celestial being who's going to consume the entire like universe and will keep consuming universes, and that's what this Resurrection Man is seemingly trying to stop. I think. There's a lot going on here.
I think so too. Because then, man. Because then he also talks about him eating the Flash, right? Like there's a thing in there. I might be conflating. Yeah,
no. There's. He basically he's trying to convince the main. He's trying to convince the main Resurrection Man about why he should do like to help him build this device with the cosmic, not cosmic cube, the microverse cube, and part of it is because hey, he's going to kill people that you care about. He's going to kill Wally West. He's going to consume him. He's going to consume. What were the other examples he gave? Oh god, I'm trying to find these pages.
I'm looking right now because they're not coming up right away. But yeah, but it's along those lines that he's appealing to his empathy here. Is like you're gonna want to stop this because once he consumes that part of Vandal Savage, he becomes nigh unstoppable. You know, we need to stop this. And also that's the other thing is with that cube that essentially creates an unlimited amount of realities that they can comb through and stop this from ever happening. But because of the guilt that Mitch Shelley has had in dealing with the cube and stealing it and doing all that, it would, like again, I would feel like it would make the death of the love of his life, I forget her name, right, actually mean something, because now it's doing something bigger, but now he's not going to do it, which I'm still confused about. Right.
Well, I think part of the problem is as well is that all these universes in the micro cube that are going to exist so that they can find the solution, like the one solution that'll let me, because that's what he wants to do. He wants to use the cube to find the solution that'll eventually take out Gash. Like what's the solution to solving him? The problem is though, is that all these universes that will exist in this cube, all but one of them, because like only one's going to give them the solution, all but one of them are going to exist just to die. They're just going to eventually die in this endless string of... I mean, it feels weird to even call them simulations. They're effectively existing. They'll all like, be aware of their existence and die. So, like, there's like a moral quandary there, which I think is why Resurrection Man doesn't want to like betray the love of his life again by letting this happen.
Right, but then it's all of these ones for one. It's the lives of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Right? Or I did that backwards. Whatever Spock says in Wrath of Khan, that's where I feel that's what the other version of him is doing. Right? It's like, it's going to be way worse if we do nothing than if we just do this with the cube.
Yes.
So I do like that moral quandary going on here.
Yeah. You've got that. You've also got just there's this idea of the guilt playing into it, and this idea that he's trying to like obscure his own past from himself so that the other Resurrection Man can't like do all this is quite interesting. But it's like, yeah, because towards the end of the book, it's like, hey, okay, we're in 1997, and he's like, all right, I've been trying to track down this human target, so that I can basically forget myself and escape from myself, and that's kind of what the final beat of the book is, as he's trying to get to it. I mean, yeah, I will say this: that out of all the issues of this book so far, this was probably the most complex one to follow from like start to finish. Yeah, because it just put me on the back foot a couple times of being like, okay, what are we doing now? What are we doing now? But I will say this: it always drew me in, and it was always making me fascinated with the ideas that it was talking about. And once it gets to those couple of pages where the older Resurrection Man's explaining that Gash is becoming bigger because of consuming Vandal Savage, you see like these pages where it's like mutating into something bigger, and it's like he's becoming like a celestial being, and you get that 2-page spread where he's basically just this big mouth that's coming out of a vortex in the sky, and there's like civilians in the bottom running away. So the art here is phenomenal. Like it's like given this sense of scale and this sense of just everything. Because the whole thing with the arrow, back in the early days of history that he's talking about, in the 18-day war, the whole idea is like you don't think about the moral implications of firing the arrow. You're just an arrow to be fired, and the only karma you have to worry about is that you hit your target, right? It's kind of like you're a cog in the machine, and you don't have to worry about what the entire machine's doing, kind of thing.
Right, and then to bring that into samsara and dharma, right, is that samsara is the cycle that things are, right? It's going to keep repeating. So you're just a cog in that wheel that keeps moving, right? So how do you stop that wheel?
Yeah, so
I feel like that's the type of stuff that Rambee's played with here that went over my head initially.
Yeah, the older Resurrection Man's saying, yeah, you have to just be this cog in the machine, but the younger one is defying that and saying, no, I'm going to find a way not to be. And honestly, where are we going to get to? Like, how's that going to pan out, and which one of them are right? Are they both kind of right and kind of wrong? Yeah. I don't know, but like, there's big ideas here, very, very big ideas that are at play here, which is not surprising for Ramvee, given what he's doing with New Gods.
Well, and it feels again like a bit of the Morrison like meta aspect of the, in 97, that was the last main like Resurrection Man series, right? And that's where they did the Techite stuff. Yeah. And then so the fact that it still happened, but not like that, right? It plays with the whole continuity meta aspect of comics, and that that happened, but it didn't.
Well, you're conveniently forgetting the New 52 series, but other than that, yes.
Oh yeah, I forgot there was a New 52 series.
Yeah, but I was also thinking, was 1997 like the year Resurrection Man like either ended or had a big book or something? Like I was thinking that when that year came up, I was like, that seems very specific.
Yeah.
But yeah, that makes some sense. Yeah.
And so just have that whole concept there that, like the cube, right? All these different things have happened, but we need to pick one, right? And that's kind of how writing comics work with the continuity. We have to pick one to focus on and to go forward with. And, from his creator's mentality, right? What does that mean? None of this other stuff matters, but it does matter, right? It all impacts the other. So yeah, I did not like reading this. I just wasn't picking up. It was very, like you said, heady, and there's a lot of concepts going on and being thrown out there, but it always makes for a good conversation, and I'll always take that over something that's way more concise and boring.
I mean, I still love reading it. Like, I don't want to even imply that I didn't. Like, I was like so into like all these ideas that he was throwing at me. This one was just a little bit more obtuse than even the other issues so far. But like, I was like, it had me thinking constantly. It always felt like there was a puzzle to like unlock. It didn't. It never felt like. It's a very fine line, because I feel like people who don't like anything heady will say that when you talk about something like this, like you're like, okay, let me take another example of, say, like a David Lynch movie, right? Where some people say, oh, it's just a bunch of nonsense and it doesn't mean anything. And why is that any different to like another movie that actually is just a bunch of nonsense and doesn't mean anything? Right. And I'm like, well, no, because there's this like artistic hand where you feel this sense of confidence where everything is clicking together and it does all fit together. There's a puzzle to unravel and it does work and make sense when you think about it, especially when you have the whole picture, which we don't have yet. And
right.
There's something to that, and there is like an artistry to it where some people who try to write this way will not be able to do it, and it will not work. But Ram V has proven with each of his books that I've read from him so far, maybe less so like Catwoman because that was more straightforward, but like when I look at his Swamp Thing series, when I look at his New Gods and now his Resurrection Man, he clearly likes to write in a very specific way that is about thinking about bigger ideas and this very kind of like metatextual level, and I think he's very good at doing it. So when you get an issue like this, which is maybe not as easy to follow as some of the other ones, it still kind of has this feeling of like, no, he knows what he's doing, and all this stuff feels like it fits into something. We just don't quite get it all immediately, and that's part of the fun of reading it. Is not just like the beauty of it and like the way certain things build up. It's also the fun of it all coming together. Like this was still very satisfying for me to read. So yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. The art's still very good throughout. Obviously, you get all these different things like the old war and all that looked very different. Obviously, that first page, the art from the original artist, sticks out as well and looks really nice. I think this book is one of the more special books that DC's putting out right now. And it's kind of wild that Ram V's in a place where he can just pick an obscure character and say, hey, let me do a series on them. And, you know, we get a great book like this because it shows that he has some cred with like DC editorial where they're willing to let him do this kind of thing. And they definitely see value in him writing these more prestige style series that'll probably sell well in collected form, but are not going to like sell gangbusters like as in a monthly series by any stretch of the imagination. So it's very, very cool. Maybe they're hoping that one day this will become like a cool movie or a cool like limited series or something that they can adapt. Because I mean, ultimately at a certain point now, comic books are kind of like, oh, these all may turn into movies someday now, and that's the hope to make a shit ton of money. So hey, here we are.
So you're saying like a Lynchian Resurrection Man?
Sure, why not?
Something that you'd want to see, yeah. I would actually want to see that too. And I like the idea of David Lynch. I'm not a big fan of his movies like you are, but I definitely want to watch a Lynchian Resurrection Man. Yeah, that'd be cool.
So no, very, very cool. And you've also got that sort of big headiness that comes with your more kind of, I don't want to say Lovecraftian, but certainly like these bigger ideas that are hard to comprehend, kind of like in the stories.
Yeah, so I mean, Gasha Dekoro, which is the Gash guy, right? The only reason I can say it is because I'm looking at the name in front of me, right? But no, he is almost a cosmic horror kind of villain because it's like he just exists, right? He's almost just the evil that man does to one another, and he's been given this form, and the more that he consumes, the more power he gets.
Well, I think that's what's exciting to me about him is that he started off as just an evil man, but he's kind of becoming that. Like he's so evil that he's become this idea of something bigger. It's kind of like what I like about the Terrifier movies. Art the Clown was just a serial killer and then became something more. I don't know, just interesting. Anyway, Matt, what were you rating Resurrection Man, Quantum Karma?
Even though it was this thing that we talked about, and I didn't quite understand it until we talked about it, I'm still going to give it 8.5.
Yeah. What am I giving it? I think because it wasn't quite as smooth a read as the previous issues that I did really love, I think I'm also going to just give it an 8.5 and not, because I think I've hit this with some 9s before now.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to just rate it a little bit lower because of that, but it's still very exciting, and I'm excited to see where we go with the next issues.
Say, if Tom Taylor's our patron saint, what does that make Ram V? Because I feel like with him, we talk about him.
he's just the god.
I guess so. Is he our prophet? Is he our, whatever figure? Because I feel like we talk about him, like we have this reverence for him like we do for Tom Taylor at this point.
Very different reference at this point.
Yes.
All right, cool. Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong 2, issue 2, Brian Buccellato writing with Christian Duce on the art. So this is our second issue of the sequel. So last issue we had the whole timeline thing where there was some of it set 4 years after G-Day and some of it was set at a different time. I think all of it's set 4 years after G-Day in this issue, but it did make me question it multiple times because it kept saying it at the start of new scenes 4 years after G-Day, which made me think, wait, was there a scene that wasn't? But I look back and there never was. It never cut to another scene that was, I think it's just consistently, every time it's a new location, it says that, just so that we know that we're constantly in this time period. But it kept making me think, wait, why is it telling me this if we've not changed? But I don't think we ever did change.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's almost like, but by trying to make it clear, it almost made it more confusing to me because I was like, why are you telling me again if it's not changed? But hey, whatever. So we're on Skull Island with the Justice League and they're trying to deal with Kong. But giant kaiju Croc comes out and fights Kong instead. But when Kong beats him up, he shrinks down and is dead. Killer Croc is dead. Mm-hmm. They killed Killer Croc by sending him in with this kaiju juice in him.
Yep, and Kong hit him with the double heart punch. So, it wasn't maybe just the energy, or, juicing him up.
Well, that's the thing. The characters assumed that Kong killed him, and I was like, I don't think Kong did kill him. I think it was this kaiju juice they put in him that did more of the work. I mean, maybe it's a combination of both. Because obviously when they say, hey, Kong just killed this creature, I think it's Batman who says, well, the rules of the animal kingdom are a little bit different to like what we would, try other, humans with. So it's a bit of a weird thing at this point. But Superman's like, oh, this must be Lex that did this. Lex made Kaiju Kaiju Croc.
Shark.
Yeah. Shark. Why are you bringing up a shark?
Yeah. Oh no, because they had the Kaiju King Shark in the last issue that they ran into.
Oh yeah, but we're not talking about Shark just now. We're just talking about Croc.
Yeah, no, I know, but still, like there's a thread for them to follow.
So yeah, I mean they're like, okay, Lex is here somewhere. I can hear his heartbeat. Supergirl goes off to try and calm down Kong. Superman and the others like crash onto the ship that Lex and Shaw are in. Because, of course, Shaw killed Amanda Waller at the end of the last issue, which I almost forgot about halfway through this issue, because other than just a little bit of conversation at the start where it's like, yeah, Waller's dead now, deal with it, it doesn't actually matter that much. It's just like Shaw's in charge now. That's all it really resulted in.
I love where I think it's Enchantress, the lady that was green.
Yeah.
It's just like, you just killed Amanda Waller. And Shaw's like, she did that to herself. I was like, oh, man. All right, that's all we're getting. Cool. And then he threatens them with the bombs, and their necks aren't just for show. He'll do it. He's crazy. So
the rest of the squad show up to fight the Justice League, which is Giganta, Peacemaker, Boomerang, Cheetah, and Enchantress, like you say. And it's it's fine. It's whatever. There's some fighting. The Batmech gets damaged. Batman jumps out of that. Flash gets shot in the head by Peacemaker. He's got like a supersonic bullet that kind of grazes him. They say that he's going to be okay, but he's kind of down for the count. They have to get him to a hospital. Yeah. So, I guess if I was to critique this issue, is that it is mostly just this big fight between the Suicide Squad and the Justice League, and it's just fine. Like Supergirl goes to talk to Kong, tries to calm him down. Kong hits her away, and then Supergirl sort of rushes away because she can see or hear that Diana's in trouble. Wonder Woman. So there's that. Superman goes into the Hollow Earth, because that's where the villains went. Lex is waiting for him in his battle suit. He points out that the supers are a bit weaker here, especially down here in the Hollow Earth, because there's no sun down here. Sun. So that's going on. And the big cliffhanger at the end of the issue is that there's 4 King Kong-sized apes down here, and that's what we end on. So this is just an okay issue. Like I'm still kind of pumped to see where we go with the rest of this series, but most of it's this fight between the Suicide Squad and the Justice League, which is just kind of fine. All of a sudden, like Flash is vulnerable to a special gun. I don't know. That just kind of came out of nowhere to me. And then I don't really care about more Kongs at the end. Whatever.
No, it looks like it hit him point blank, but it only grazed him. Which maybe the Speed Force did step in there, for some of that stuff.
Yeah, I guess
the idea that he's still concussed, right? So Superman's like, I checked his X-ray, but we'll need an MRI to see, if there's any concussion and whatever. But the part of me that got a laugh is the dynamic between Captain Cold and Black Manta, where Black Manta calls Cold an ignoramus, because he's talking about Wonder Woman, and he's like, yeah, just Wonder Woman? That's embarrassing. And Black Manta's like, yeah, but it's Wonder Woman. And he goes, you ignoramus. And Captain goes, if I ever figure out what that means, you're going to be in trouble. So I thought that was really funny. Just seeing these two interact. So I don't think I've ever seen Black Manta, who's always so deadly serious, and Captain Cold interact like this. So,
yeah.
So yeah, and then the whole Hollow Earth stuff, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if they get through the Hollow Earth into the realm that Kong lives in, right? In the movies, is that sun going to supercharge Superman? Right? Is it gonna be like a different kind of sun here?
I mean, I think they're already in the Hollow Earth, so I mean,
right. But remember when they travel through the Hollow Earth, they get through the cavern aspect and they end up in the outside portion. Like there is a sun there,
Well,
so again, I'm just wondering if that's what's gonna supercharge Superman here, right? After because it's only one part of it. But yeah, all this made me do is want to go watch Godzilla X Kong and watch the Scar King fight. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just a bit underwhelmed with what this is right now. I'll be more into it. I mean, maybe a lack of Godzilla is I'm feeling that perhaps, but I don't know. The first series definitely was more fun consistently, because the first issue of this was mostly fine. Like there was some fun stuff in the setup, but this one I don't think had quite the excitement. Like obviously the last issue had like, oh, we made King Shark Kaiju, isn't that kind of neat? And we had the wedding with Carol and with Hal. Yeah, that's the one.
Right.
But anywho, it's just fine. Like I think this issue feels more of the standard that you expect, just kind of like we're doing like a movie tie-in series. This is probably more the typical quality that I'd expect from it. And the first series was surprisingly above it for the most part. Which is why we were kind of like positive on it. This issue is just kind of more the level I'd expect, and maybe it's just a sign that like, maybe there's not as many good ideas to milk on a second go round. But that said, though, it's only one issue. The first issue was decent enough, so I'm curious to see if we get something spicy in the next couple to really make it feel like, it was worth doing a sequel to that series.
Yeah.
This one was just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because we had the big shock of killing Amanda Waller at the end of the last issue.
Yeah.
And this issue just didn't feel like it actually mattered as much as it should have, I guess. But
yeah, deal with it. That's what Shaw said.
Yeah. I guess Shaw here in the comic just isn't that interesting a character, and this didn't like elevate him in the way that I think maybe it should have. But
yeah.
Oh well, that's what it is. What are you rating Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong 2?
Give this a 6.5.
Yeah, I think a 6 is about where I'm feeling as well. So, nice and simple enough. So yeah, every month on Patreon, you can make me read a book of your choosing if you go to one of the higher tiers where it says such a thing. I'm talking about Planetary issue 10 today, which, I think last issue really got us into some big ideas with Planet Fiction, and then this issue does some more DC comic related things than perhaps most people would expect. So this issue starts off with like a group of scientists like clearing up the base that they found that the Four used to use. The Four being the group of villains. And there's notably like a red cape with a symbol on it. There is a lantern looking device, and there's like gold like gauntlets. So immediately I'm like, wait a minute, that's like a Superman-esque cape, a Green Lantern type thing, and the sort of things that Wonder Woman would wear. So we're kind of
so like the bracers.
Yes.
They're bracelets. Yeah. Gotcha.
Is gauntlets not a good word for that? Is that not what we call them?
Well, no, because the gauntlet's like a glove, right? Like the Infinity Gauntlet, right? So I was thinking, like,
okay, sure.
I was trying to think who would be gauntlet wise, like, because it's supposed to be a Batman thing, but no, that makes more sense. The bracers.
Yeah, I feel like bracelets though makes me think of like they feel too like big for bracelets to me, you know, because they're going up like.
Well, yeah, that's why they're called bracers.
Right? All right.
So yeah.
Anyway, so the scientists are sort of like cleaning this place up, and they're checking for radiation and whatnot. And Elijah Snow is just kind of like watching this take place, and the two scientists are talking about how he creeps them out. But what this issue actually mostly is, this is just the bookend to the issue. Most of it is basically us seeing the version in this universe of these characters. So we go to like their planet. I mean, it's not actually Krypton, because, you know, it's not. But it's basically this story of these two aliens who do look a bit different. They're not quite as human as Kryptonians would be. But they're basically talking about how, every time we use our planet's core to fire a message out into the universe, our planet's destabilizing and it's going to be destroyed. And they're worried that their world's going to end. So ultimately it does end with them launching their small like child into space, and the planet blows up behind them, right? And it's like, okay, this is their version of Superman. So we're getting a little bit of their take on it, this origin. And it's like, okay, that's interesting. And it even ties into the themes of the fictional stuff a little bit, because they talk about they're launching probes that have got like anthems and art and things like that into the universe. It's kind of about almost the arrogance of like our culture's important to like spread into the universe kind of thing. So it does that, right? And that's a few pages long. And then we get to a sort of transition to the lantern stuff, because the explosion of like not Krypton is kind of in the lantern looking thing. And we find out that these like beings, right, that are made up of all these different aliens, are talking about bringing a champion on board, and they're basically telling a story of the first lantern, who used a lantern to light their way on this horrible planet that was full of smoke and mist, and there was just nothing but darkness. But it was kind of them telling their biblical story of how the lanterns came to be and like why it's important, and this is our source of strength and all the rest of it. So they're like, hey, here's our new lantern, you approach. If I have a critique here, is that I do think this alien looks a bit too similar to the Kryptonian alien design, because I was wondering if this was still the same planet. I don't think it is. I think it became clear that these were separate origins of different things. But he steps forward, and he's getting a lantern, and it kind of like imbues into his chest, and their symbol of their lantern kind of is like on his chest directly. And it even says at the end here, be the light in the blackest night. So they're using words and phrases that as close as they can get, but without being, in trouble from a copyright perspective. So he actually gets shot off into space, right? Presumably towards Earth or somewhere, right? So he has this big whole moment where he flies off into space. It's a nice bit of art, just this beam of light in the dark space background, really cool. And then we go to what is basically this world's version of Themyscira, which is this island that's been secretive from man, where literally people can't see it, it's cloaked or whatever. But you've got a mother and daughter, where the daughter is basically talking about leaving and going to man's world to try and guide them and help them. And Hippolyta, that's not her name, but I'm just going to call her Hippolyta, is like, yes, and they'll fear you. They'll hate you for telling them things that they don't want to hear, and so on. And she's like, yeah, they'll hate me, but you know what? I'll help see the way. So she puts on the bracer things, And it's, they talk about basically the fact that there's not been a man here for 3,000 years, and don't tell them that because that'll just make them fear you even more, blah, blah, blah. And we see like a page where she seemingly, then we go to kind of to like the follow-up to the earlier stories. So we see a ship crash land on Earth, which is clearly the baby Kal-El style ship. And we have this character whose name I didn't remember at first, Captain Leather, shows up with like a team, and they come over to this ship and they look in and they see this alien baby wrapped in the red cape, very Superman-esque. And basically, he just zaps the baby and kills it, right? Baby Kal-El here is killed upon arrival, and he's on the phone to one of the other members of the Four who basically say, hey, maybe bring the baby in, we could do something with it. And he's like, oh, wait, that's awkward. I already took care of it. It's like, well, you never said anything about not doing that. So, to have a bit of an argument on the phone about what he just did. But yeah, he killed him immediately. And then the next page is another member of the Four dissecting the dead Green Lantern, where they've got him on a table and they've got his face is all smushed in like he was hit with a big bullet, but they've got like little gadgets and stuff like pulling him apart, and like it's like a mad scientist panel. And then he actually like takes the lantern out of his chest, which is like dripping blood, almost as if the lantern goes inside the character's chest when they become a Green Lantern, or Blue Lantern in this case technically. And he's pulled it out, and it's really good art here because the way you get just like the silhouette of it coming out of the chest as the scientist is looking at it, the evil scientist, and then in the final panel, like he's in this red part of the page, but there's like an empty negative space part where his arm reaches out into, holding up the lantern, which is dripping in the red. It really plays with the negative space and the colors of like, in this panel the red's the background, but in this panel the red's the lantern itself dripping the blood. So it's like, okay, Superman killed as a baby, Green Lantern seemingly captured by these bad guys and killed very, very easily upon arrival. And we don't, we don't actually see what happens to the Wonder Woman, I don't think, but we just hear them talking, like as the scientist is pulling out the lantern, they're talking about this ambassador coming from an island, and like the fact that they have to deal with it, send one of the other Four to go deal with them. And so this idea that basically versions of the DC heroes were going to exist in this world, but the Four, this evil Fantastic Four that exist here, have killed them all and taken care of them so they couldn't exist. So all that we have left of them in this world when we come back to the bookends is Elijah Snow leaning down and looking at these like basically just artifacts of their existence, this cape, this lantern, and these bracers. And he's talking about secrets and deaths and all that. What is it he says here at the end? I've been going all wrong about this, haven't I? I've been waiting for something to break when I should be using something to break it with. I need to go speak to John Stone. So he's clearly had a realization about something based on these artifacts, and that's the end of the issue. So this was interesting for sure. Obviously it's getting super meta by having these like DC characters like kind of almost exist but not really, because the cruelty of this world, that the villains just like getting rid of them immediately. So I think that's quite interesting from a meta point of view. I will say that I didn't love this as much as the last issue, because the last issue, the whole like idea of the planet fiction and then like this being that came back from it was so eerie and creepy and so like tantalizing and imaginative. This, by comparison, was a lot more straightforward, even though I like thematically what it's doing. It wasn't as like engrossing as the last issue was. Like I love when this book really gets to the ideas of things, but this issue, well, I like what it's doing from a thematic point of view. Ultimately, what I was reading for most of the book was just, here's their version of Superman, here's their version of Green Lantern, here's their version of Wonder Woman, and they're all gone by the end. So I like the point of it, but the actual reading of it isn't quite as engaging, because I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. This is their take on Superman. Okay, right? It's clicked in place. Like the art's very good though, especially that page of the dissecting the Green Lantern and like pulling the lantern out of his chest with the blood dripping out. That is great stuff. That's probably the closest I got to like the atmosphere and the feeling of mad science that I get from this book that I've been really enjoying, and some of the best issues. Mm-hmm. So some really great stuff here. but ultimately not quite as tantalizing as the last issue was, which may have been my favorite issue of the book, to be fair. So that's stiff competition in a lot of ways. So excited to see where we go. I do think it's interesting that we're following on a lot more directly. This idea of the four is very consistent now in this book, where they've been coming up in almost every issue. So excited to get to issue 11 next time. But I would give this like a solid 8 out of 10. It's not a spectacular issue compared to some of them, but really great, and the art layouts are really, really solid. So yeah, there you go. That's Planetary issue 10. Which will take us on to the final part of the show, where we pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel/moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and of course top 5 books. So Matt, what is your panel/moment of the week?
All right, man. Between the 4 books that I thoroughly enjoyed this week, there's a lot. There's the one of Gash and Resurrection Man, as he's becoming this harbinger of evil and consumption.
This cosmic
that was really
monster.
strong. Yeah, the cosmic monster. Batgirl has some real fun stuff with that's more art related, but a lot of the expressions on Cass's face while wearing the cowl is really good. But mine's gonna be from Green Lantern, and it's that big or Absolute Green Lantern rather. The big double page spread of Joe, getting through Abin Sur, right? And essentially touching him because she's still wearing the gold ring. There's all those teases that go around it. That's super strong. So that's going to be mine.
Cool. My pick. Yeah, I think there's some great stuff in that Green Lantern, Absolute Green Lantern issue. Yeah, I really like the big moments in Batgirl as well, but I think I'm probably going to go with the Gash becoming the cosmic monster in Resurrection Man. It was just like such a big, bold idea, and that character's been so interesting and kind of disgusting since his inception that every step that takes him somewhere further is really exciting, and I think that 2-page spread really paid that off. So I'm going to say that, but it's definitely close though. There's definitely a few things across a few of the books that I could have picked. So that's cool. For cover of the week, having a look, the main cover for Resurrection Man's pretty good. I like the main cover for Batgirl, as well as the main cover for Absolute Green Lantern. For me though, I think I like the variant for Batgirl by Terso Cons, which is kind of like the sort of the old VHS sort of like degradation around the edges, and it's got like Cass in her civvies with like the silhouette of Batgirl in the background. I like that a lot. My pick though is still very Batgirl related, but it's Birds of Prey. It's the Serge Acuna variant to Birds of Prey with Cass holding the missing poster of Barda and looking sad in her outfit. I like it conceptually, and I also think it looks pretty cool. I think arguably a couple of the other ones that I said, I do like the art, like from a quality perspective, a little bit more. But I think this is like the concept of this cover plus the good art is putting this over the edge. So I'm going with that. Although there is the Malavia Barda variant as well, which is also pretty cool. But I'm going with the Serge Acuna. What are you picking?
There's that Terso Con Batgirl I really enjoy. There's also Lucas Meyer Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong 2. That's got all of the Suicide Squad on there. And it just looks really good because it's Lucas Meyer. I'm not going to pick. But yeah, so I had to narrow it down between the Batgirl by Terso Cons, and then, funnily enough, you brought up the other one, the Barda variant by Malavia. And that Barda variant has got a big old Barda taking center with a yellow background, and then I think it's Sin and slash Megira around her, and it almost looks like it's Sin Megira fighting a giant Barda. And that's my cover. That's I love that one.
I need to confess, every time we say Megira, it makes me think of Madeira cake, and it makes me want cake.
Gotcha.
Is Madeira cake not a thing in the US?
I would have to look. It probably is, but we call it something else.
It's just basic cake. It's just kind of plain cake with a little bit of a flavor. Sometimes you maybe put a bit of lemon on it or something. Not like actual lemons, but like a lemon like drizzle or whatever. Anyway, Madeira cake. That's what we should think of. All right, what were you picking for art of the week?
So this one, I'm having a hard time pick right now, even as we talk, right? Because I really like Batgirl's art. I thoroughly enjoyed Birds of Prey. But there's a lot going on in Resurrection Man and on RK. And even though it got a bit confusing, I feel like there's a lot of really good layouts that are going on. So mine's going to be Resurrection Man.
Yeah, Resurrection Man. Batgirl gives it a fight. Batgirl's the other one that I kind of want to pick. And I'm tempted to, but I think Resurrection Man still just takes it. But those are the two that are the fight for me this week. There's some other good art. I don't think I'm not dissing the other ones, but I think those are the two that stuck out to me. But I'll go with the Resurrection Man as well. Matt, we're at 1 hour 55 minutes. Come on, we can do this.
We're gonna get through. We got it.
Top 5 of the week. Go.
All right, number 1, Birds of Prey. Number 2, Batgirl. Number 3, Resurrection Man. Number 4, Absolute Green Lantern. And number 5, Godzilla and Kong.
All right. My number 1 is Absolute Green Lantern. Number 2 is Resurrection Man. Number 3 is Batgirl. 4, Birds of Prey. 5, I guess just Godzilla Kong, because it's either that or JSA. So I'll go with that one. But it's not a happy pick for number 5. All right, I'll tell you what's coming next week from DC Comics, everyone. We have Absolute Superman issue 9, Action Comics 1088. We have Batman and Robin 23. We got Batman Dark Patterns issue 8, Aquaman 7, Supergirl issue 3, Green Lantern Corps issue 6, Trinity Daughter of Wonder Woman issue 2. We have Batman Gotham by Gaslight, A League for Justice issue 1. That's a mouthful of a title. We have Superman Treasury 2025, Hero for All issue 1. We got Gotham City Sirens Unfit for Orbit issue 2. That's weekly this month because the issue 1 was this week. And then we also have Fire and Ice When Hell Freezes Over issue 4. And then we've got some reprints and facsimiles and that kind of thing. So yeah, some interesting stuff next week. Dark Patterns and Absolute Superman, probably the ones that I'm particularly excited for. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. So that'll bring an end to the show, everyone. You can support Comics From The Multiverse by going to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and supporting us there financially. Helps keep the show coming. And of course, you can also, like, subscribe. You can, share the podcast out with friends, all that kind of stuff. All of that does help immensely if you'd want to do that. But yeah, that is us pretty much. And like I said earlier, if you want to hear me talk with David about all the Superman movies, the first 4 episodes, Superman 1 through 4, those reviews are all out now as part of the Collector's Cut. You can find that on MailFuzz Movies, the YouTube channel, or get the Collector's Cut podcast feed if you want to hear the audio versions. But either way, if you want to hear some Superman talk, you can check out on those. I think we had some really fun conversations about those movies, so go check out those if that is of interest. But no, that is the show, everyone. So thank you very much for joining us. We do appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and we're just hitting 1 hour 58. We did it. Sub 2 hours. Never get lost in the Speed Force.